So today we're going to do the handover video on this Burstner Lyseo TD728G. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, if we come over to the passenger side, you'll notice that you've got your fill up points here with your diesel up at the top and your AdBlue just below. Opening up the passenger side door, you can see that you've got your bonnet release catch here, which will gain you access underneath there. And whilst I'm here, you'll also notice you've got Remis cab blinds fitted to this vehicle. To operate these, all you'll need to do is simply pinch and pull. Lead from the bottom with these blinds, just like so, and let them connect up via the magnetic strip on the sides. You've got these on each of your windows, as well as your window at the front. Again, they connect via a magnetic strip that will black out the entire cab. When taking them back, I personally again recommend leading from the bottom to stop them from getting caught. And if something feels like it's going to be forced or it's going to break, you are probably doing something wrong. So just take a minute just to evaluate what you're doing. Never try and force something, as you are probably going to do something wrong and you're probably going to break it. So just bear that in mind. So moving away from the passenger side and underneath the bonnet, the main things that you need to know underneath here is if you're ever going to jump start the vehicle. If you are jump starting the vehicle, you've got your positive terminal, which is just located where my finger is underneath here. You will need your key just to flick up this cap, and that will gain you access to the positive terminal. There's actually a plus sign on there just to indicate where that is. And your negative terminal, as indicated by this sticker here, is just located just below that. Just to point out a couple more things as well, you've got your engine oil, which is just there. You've got your brake disc fluid above there, your engine coolant next to it, and then finally, in the corner, you've got your washer fluid for the front windscreen. Moving on from the front and to the side of the vehicle, you can see that this vehicle is fitted with a full-length awning. We will send you a second video showing you how to operate the awning. As you can appreciate, it's a little bit difficult for me to do so with just having one pair of hands. So I'll send you a separate video showing you how to operate that awning and how it works. It's dead easy, dead simple. Now, on the outside, you will notice you've got your habitation door, which we'll pop into shortly and go on to the habitation area. And next to that, you've got your gas point, which is just above your cassette locker. Your gas point will allow you to hook up a pigtail or a pipe rather, which will allow you to use your barbecue on the outside of the vehicle. Of course, please bear in mind that you will need your gas on for that to operate. And then just below that, as mentioned, is your cassette toilet. So when emptying the cassette toilet, please ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed. I'll show you where that is on the inside. But to empty this, all you need to do is pull up and slide out, just like so. Now, if this feels like it's getting jammed and it's getting stuck, you've probably left the blade open on the inside, hence why I tell you just to double check that before removing the cassette. And as I mentioned earlier, if it feels like you are pulling and forcing something, you are probably doing something wrong, so never force it or get it jammed. To drain this, or to empty this rather, all you need to do, as I say, is slide this out. I'll just pop this on the floor just so I can show you. You then can twist the funnel out, obviously remove the grey cap on the top, and using the orange button at the back, that will release an internal vacuum, allowing you to empty the entire contents out. If you're using blue fluid to clean and break down the waste that's in the cassette, you can use the cap as a measurement, and that will just pop into there, and as I say, break down the entire waste. Once you've done that, you can put a bit of fresh water in here just to rinse it out, and then stick the cap back on, press the funnel back into position, and then you'll be good to go to put the cassette back into situ. You will also notice that you have got this orange valve that I've not spoken about. This is what takes or makes contact with the blade, allowing you to close and open the cassette. This should always stay in this position. There should be no need for you to turn it. If that is off slightly, it will not allow you to put the cassette back in, and it will as I say, get jammed. So please ensure that that remains that way, and I can't stress it enough, ensure that the blade is closed before removing the cassette to avoid it from jamming and breaking. So with the cassette back in, all you need to do, push in so it locks in. You can see the handle just slots into place, ready for transit. Next up, you can see that you have actually got an external socket on the side of the vehicle. You can in fact have, notice a little aerial point there, you can actually have that wired up to the aerial if you ever needed to. No one ever does really, due to it being on the outside of the vehicle. What most customers use is just the external socket. Now, as this is a German van, this has got a continental plug, so you will need an adapter just to pop into there to turn that and convert it in to a 3-pin plug. Now, on the rear of the vehicle, will gain you access to your garage, and with the garage door open, it can gain you access, of course, into the garage. You can see that your awning winder is here, along with a couple more bits. You've got your jack there, as well as your TV and your nice soft furnishings. Before we move on to the other side, it's just worth mentioning that with the awning, as I say, I will send you that second video, but please ensure that when it is a windy day, you take the awning back in. You don't want any wind getting underneath that awning, which could potentially rip and tear it. As you can imagine, it's like having a massive sail on the side of your van, so if you do get any wind underneath that, it will potentially break the awning, damaging your van and potentially others. So please ensure that if it's windy, it goes back in. Same thing when it comes to night, stick it back in. Obviously take it out in the morning if you need to, and please be aware that if it does get caught in the rain, the awning, on a dry day, you will need to pull that awning out just to allow it to dry. But as I say, the actual use of the awning and how to operate it, I will send in a separate video. Moving to the back, you can see that you've got your rear camera, which is right up at the top there, angling down at your bumper. And on the other side, you have another access point into the garage. Moving on from the garage, you can see that you've got your hookup cable that goes onto the inside of the vehicle here. So when you're on site, your hookup cable, as shown here, will slot into the side and it will allow you to use 230-volt power, allowing to use your 3-pin sockets on the inside of the vehicle. You'll also notice just above that you've got two fridge vents. If it is a hot day, please bear in mind that you really ideally want to keep this area shaded, so try and turn it away from the sun, just to allow the fridge to run a little bit more efficiently, as this is where it pulls in its air to cool the contents of the fridge. So just bear that in mind. You can also, if you would like, buy fridge covers for this, for when you're storing the vehicle, and they simply clip in to these little grommets here. And as I say, they're designed for when you're storing the vehicle in cooled conditions. Next up, you can see that you've got a sticker underneath here, and this indicates your drain down points. This is your first drain down point in the vehicle. Underneath here, this, as you can see, this little bar connects to your wastewater tank. And you can see there is the pipe for the wastewater. You have 3 main drain down points in the vehicle. You've got your wastewater tank, which is here and actually underslung. You've then got your boiler drain down point, and then you've got your freshwater drain down point. So 3 main drain down points. You need to ensure that the vehicle is completely drained down whenever you're not using the vehicle, as it could potentially freeze. And one thing with your wastewater, what I tend to recommend is, as this is external, this could potentially freeze when you are using the vehicle. We always recommend that you leave this tank open and put a bucket underneath during the cold climates. So if you go skiing or anything where it is a very cold conditions, leave this tank open and put a bucket underneath there to allow all the wastewater to drop out into the bucket, and that will ensure that nothing freezes in there. Now, to drain this tank down, as you can see, there's just a bar. You will have a handle which simply slots onto there. You can then turn the handle down, and that will allow you to drain down the entire contents of the wastewater tank. So moving on from your first drain down point, you've got your gas locker. So in here, simply open this up. This will house your 2 gas bottles. As you can see, it's got space for 2. Really good size as well, this gas locker, so you can fit a decent sized gas bottle in there. Now you'll notice you've got your regulator, which is just above here. All you need is obviously your 2 bottles. You will need a gas pigtail, which will connect your regulator, which is this, to your gas bottle, and then you can simply turn the gas bottle on the actual gas bottle. So turn that valve, and that will allow gas to flow through the vehicle. You will need to pull it through, of course, but then you'll be good to go. Now please ensure that when you're travelling, your gas bottles are turned off at the bottle, but then when you're on site, you can of course turn them on. The reason we recommend that is if you are involved in a collision and you've got gas running through the vehicle, it's obviously very dangerous. So when you're travelling, turn that off. When you're on site, you're good to go. Leave it on. Next up is your external shower. Now this, as I say, links straight through to your fresh water tank, so you'll obviously need water in for that to operate. And all you'll have, you may have seen it in the garage, you do have a little adapter, or a little connection point rather, which will just clip into the point in here and allow you to use your shower. It's brilliant for washing off your dogs, washing off your muddy boots or any bikes that you've got, but as I say, just bear in mind you'll of course need water in the vehicle for that to operate, and your pump will need to be on. Underneath there you can see that you've got your vent. This is for your Truma boiler. This does get quite warm, so just bear that in mind. You don't want to hang anything on here. In essence, this is the chimney for the vehicle, so just bear that in mind. And then next to it, finally, you've got something called your convenience locker. The brilliant thing with Burstners, or the vast majority of Burstners that is they have something called a convenience locker, which will allow you to drain down the vehicle all in one place. So you're not having to go on the inside of the vehicle and rip cushions apart to try and drain things down. As you can see, with the door open, gains you access to your freshwater tank. This freshwater tank, as indicated by this sticker, will take 120 litres. To fill that up, all you need to do, remove the blue cap like so. You'll then have an overspill cap, which is just here. And that just slots onto there, and then you're using a food grade hose pipe that can go onto the inside of the tank, and you can fill up your fresh water tank. Once that's full, it will start pouring out, and then you're good to go. You can take off your overspill cap and get that tank sealed up, ready to move on to your pitch. Now, as I mentioned, this will take 120 litres. I don't personally recommend drinking out the freshwater tank, even though you're using a food grade hose pipe where you don't get a build-up of bacteria. I personally wouldn't say drink out the freshwater tank. If you're boiling water, you're absolutely fine, but if you're just drinking the water, take bottled water with you. Now, for that reason, the tank doesn't require much of a clean. You can put purifying tablets in there, and if you wanted to clean it, all you'll need to do is just remove this red cap to get your hand in there and give it a clean. But it only really needs to be done once a year at least. Now, to drain down this tank, we've spoken obviously about draining the wastewater, but the fresh water to drain down is dead easy. So you can see there's this little knob on the top. All you need to do is simply turn that knob to drain down the entire tank. Now, this has got a quick drain down point or facility built into it. So if you wanted, you can drain down the entire 120 litres to 20 litres should you need to. The manufacturer recommend that if you're travelling with water, you travel with a maximum of 20 litres in due to weight distribution and payload. So if that's the case, this has got an inbuilt quick drain down point, which all you need to do is turn that knob, and then you'll feel a little lug. When you come to that lug, just stop turning, and then that will allow you to drain the entire contents out, and will leave 20 litres in the bottom of the tank. Now, if you want to drain everything out of the tank, say for example you're moving off site and you're going home, and you're wanting to get it drained down, all you need to do is simply keep turning past that lug. You'll hear a click and you feel it, and that will allow you to drain down the entire 120 litres Now on site you will have a big grid that you can drive over, line your van up with that and simply drain down your tank. And what you can do is drain down the majority of water on site, and then as you're travelling home I recommend leaving all your tanks open, because the vibrations of the road will just ensure that that residual water remaining in the tank is out and it's empty. Next up is your boiler drain down point. There's 2 points on this, and this is a frost protection valve. I'll just get in a little bit closer. That's a little bit better, so you can see that your frost protection valve is here. At the moment it is open. It's open because you can see that there's a blue valve on the side, which is pinged out at the moment, and the diamond on the top has got a little black nib in the centre of it, which is just opened, or popped out rather. As I say, this indicates that the boiler is open. To close it, all you need to do, simply turn the diamond like so, so the little black nib on the inside pops in, and you can see by pressing in the little blue tab on the side, that will seal the boiler. Once you've done that, you are then good to pull water through the boiler, providing you've then got this yellow switch flick down. If that is up, it will still drain, so you need to also ensure, as well as doing this, that that is flicked down. In the up position it's open, and as I say, down is closed. Now the reason this is called a frost protection valve is this will react to temperature and heat. So say for example you forgot to drain down the boiler and it's an extremely cold day, what will happen is this sensor will realise that it's extremely cold and it will trip, and what will happen is the diamond will flick like so and return to its open state and drain down the entire contents of the boiler. So a really good option, and it's a fail-safe. Now what can happen, especially if you've not used the vehicle in a while, if you come to use the vehicle and it's a very cold day and you go to turn this and close the boiler and then press the blue tab in, sometimes this blue tab, as I say, it reacts to temperature, will not pop in all the way. It'll keep springing out. If that is the case, you need to jump on the inside of the vehicle, turn your heating on for the vehicle's heating, and what that will do is it will just heat this area up. It'll take about 30 minutes, but this pipe will start warming this cavity up and will then allow you to press this button in and to get the complete boiler sealed. Once you've done that, you can then go ahead and start pulling water through the system and out of your taps. So that concludes the outside. We're now going to jump onto the inside of the vehicle. So on the inside, as we walk through the habitation door, on the left hand side you've got your control panel along with the control panel for the heating. Firstly, the control panel itself, you've got your main master switch here. Click that on and off. You can see that turns on and off all your lights, and as I say, that is the master switch for everything on the inside of the vehicle. You'll notice that there are a couple of lights that stay on. These are your porch lights, and you can turn these off just by clicking this button here. In the centre, we'll show you your levels for your wastewater, your fresh water, and of course your battery levels. You'll also notice, as we are plugged in, that you have got a 230 volt feed here. If you are plugged in on a site and that is not coming up, there's clearly no power getting to the vehicle, and that may result in a fault later down the line. Now all you need to do to turn this on, click that button. Above, you've then got your first indicator point. Now it's a little bit difficult actually to see on the video. There we are. You've got a battery in what appears to be the back of a vehicle. That's for your leisure battery. Click that and that will tell you your level. Now as you can see, we're at 100% at the moment, as indicated by the dial. That is because we are plugged in. At the bottom, you've got your battery for the cab. Click that. You can see we're more or less at 100%. And obviously, as you turn your engine on, that will of course start charging that battery up. On the other side, you've then got your fresh water level. Press that with nothing in, so nothing is showing. And then below, you've got your wastewater level. Again, with nothing in, so nothing is showing. The final Switch on here is for your pump. Click that on to activate your pump. I'll turn it off because with no fresh water, we don't want to leave that on for a prolonged period, as it will simply burn out the pump. But when you're on site and you've filled up with water, all you'll need to do is click this button, go to your tap, including your shower, and turn it on and turn it to hot. Ensure that obviously the boiler is closed, and when you turn it to hot, it will pull water from the fresh water tank into the boiler and then out of the tap. It'll spurt and splutter, and then when it's running steadily, you prime your system and you're good to go. Now bear in mind that priming of the system for your hot water will take a little bit longer than your cold water. The reason for it, as I mentioned, is it's the boiler holds actually about 10 litres of water, so naturally it's going to fill that up before it can then run steadily out the tap. So it will take a few minutes to do so. But as I say, do that on your all your taps, including your shower. Now once you've done that, flick it over to cold and do the exact same. That'll pull the fresh water from the tank and straight out the tap. And as I say, when it's running steadily, you've primed your system. Now, once you've done that, and providing you've got water in the tank, which you will have, you can leave your pump on, because on each of your taps you've got something called a micro switch, which will activate and deactivate the pump whenever you need it. Dead handy, just like at home. The only time you need to turn that pump off is, of course, when you're out of water. So just bear that in mind. So we've talked about your control panel. We're now moving on to the Truma control panel for your heating. So all you need to do is click this button, this round button here. Everything below the line is what you want to select, and when it is flashing the icon, just by turning the dial, you can flick through the options. And as I say, when it's flashing, that's in essence you hovering over the options. So firstly, you've got your vehicle's temperature. The moment it's off, you can take this all the way to 30 degrees should you want to. Click the button to activate. Next up is then your water temperature. So you can run this on Eco, Hot or Boost. Eco is approximately 60 degrees. Hot is approximately, Eco is approximately 40 degrees and Hot is approximately 70 degrees. And Boost will, instead of heating the vehicle, it will concentrate on heating the water. You have got that option for the vehicle heating as well, but we'll get onto that just shortly. Obviously, if you're having a shower, it'll probably be on Eco, and if you're washing up, it'll most definitely be on Hot or Boost. Next up, you've got your fuel. So this is what you want to fuel the system off. So you've got the option of EL2. EL2 is 2 kilowatt electric. You've then got the option of EL1, which is 1 kilowatt electric. Mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and 2 kilowatt electric. Mix 1, which is a mixture of gas and 1 kilowatt electric, or purely gas. So if you're wild camping, you'll probably run it off gas. And then when you're on campsite, you'll tend to run it off a mixture or just electric. Typically EL2. Now on certain campsites, especially abroad, they don't provide you with much power. So you may be forced to keep it on a mixture, a mix 2 or a mix 1. If you are restricted to EL1, you need to really put it on a mixture of gas or just gas itself, as it will struggle to heat a vehicle of this size on 1 kilowatt electric, so just bear that in mind. Next up, you've then got your fan. So at the moment, because we've got nothing selected, it's just giving us the option of vent, which will ventilate. Now if I select, let's see, your temperature, turn that on, you can see in here we're on EL2, and your fan is set to Eco. You can either have that on high or boost if you ever wanted to, but majority of the time you'll have it on high. Eco. High is just an intensified version of that fan. Coming back, you've then got underneath a timer, so you can set a timer for when you want the heating to set in. You've then got your clock, so you can change the time, and then your settings. The main thing that you need to know in the settings is the reset button. So say, for example, you get an error code on the panel, you'll need to reset. Now, to reset, as I say, go into the settings, click that, it'll say PR set, click it again, and then it will say initializing, and then the screen will flicker, and that it will then go back to this screen here. although it'll do that in about 20 seconds, you will need to wait a full 20 minutes for that to correctly reset, and then you can use your heating again. Now, the times that you'll tend to get an error code is, say for example, let's say you select a fuel that you haven't got. So say I have no gas in the vehicle at the moment. If I was to select this on gas, I'll get an error code because it's trying to fuel the system with something that it's not got. So if you do get that error code, that's where you'll exactly need to go into the settings and reset it. Now this also applies, so say for example I've got this vehicle hooked up to electric. If I was not to turn this heating off and simply go to the outside and pull the electric from the van, it will then fault again, because in essence you have, you know, taken its fuel away. So before moving off site, please ensure that this is turned off by simply holding the button in, and it will turn the system off. Now turning to the front of the vehicle, you can see that you've got your two travelling seats here. Underneath it you can't access, as that is where your water tanks and boiler is located. And then on the other side you've got a little bit of storage underneath this seat. Now this vehicle has been fitted with a Vario seat, and the Vario seat is a fifth travelling seat. Now you can see I've just removed the cushions. That Vario seat simply slots into there with the backrest. Using these nuts you can then tighten that into place, and it'll allow you to sit backwards with a fifth travelling passenger. We can again send you a separate video on that, showing you how that operates and how that works, as I say, along with this handover video and the awning video. Now your table will actually remove, so all you'll need to do is push this up, and then you can remove it away once that red tab slots in. And you can remove the table if you wanted. You can stick it in the garage if you want a little bit more space. And this table does extend. You have got a small point here. Push that down, and that will release the tabletop and allow someone who's sitting here or in the driver's seat to eat. Now you've also got your leisure battery and fuses located in the front. Your leisure battery is located underneath the driving seat, and your fuses are just located underneath the front passenger seat. All you'll need to do is unclip the front mesh to then slide that out. So if anything trips, you're good to go. Now above your lounge, as you can see, you have got a drop down bed. You can see that here are where your keys go. Turn that like so, and that will allow you to drop down the entire bed. Before you drop it all the way, to get it all the way down, all you'll need to do is remove this cushion like so, so that can slot down on the floor, and just make sure that these lights are pointing up, just so they don't hit the table or anything lower. Once you're at this point, you can then drop the bed, and just like that, you'll be good to go. You'll have some ladders that can just clip onto here, and then you can see up at the top you've actually got some reading lights. There's no switch for them. Everyone gets confused where the switch is. There's no switch. All you need to do is press them in, and that will allow you to light up that area, as I say, as a reading light. Now all your bedding can stay on here. Just with your pillows, I recommend personally sticking them at the front or elsewhere in the vehicle, but everything else can stay on. You don't want a really thick quilt, because if you do, you'll overload the bed if you're trying to press it all the way up. So just bear that in mind. Now, a lot of people, of course, ask whether these go wrong often. We very rarely have many issues with the drop-down beds. The most that tends to happen is you blow a fuse. So what I personally recommend is just taking some spare fuses with you, just in case you blow a fuse. So you can simply switch that out and you'll be back up and running. Now, with the bed back up, in the event that the bed isn't fixed by the fuses and it's a genuine issue with the motor, you can see that you've got your manual override, which is just located in this front cupboard here. This is your manual override rod. All you'll do is that will connect into there, and will then allow you to wind up the bed manually if you ever needed to. It is a pain, to tell you the truth, but it's an absolute last resort. So you'll never be stuck with the bed down or up if you do ever need it. So we're now moving away from your lounge and into your kitchen area. So in your kitchen, you've got a 3-burner hob along with your grill below, along with, as you can see, a little bit of storage beneath. Now in this storage area, you'll notice that you've got your RCD breaker. So if the vehicle ever trips, you can simply come to this point, flick this up, and as I say, get it sorted. Now, if you're not getting any electric to the vehicle, you can always click this test button on here. There's a little test button at the top, that round switch. Click that in, and these all trip. You know you're getting power to the vehicle, so that there's therefore an issue with the vehicle itself. So from there, you can then check your fuses. If they don't trip, your hookup cable or potentially the site itself has got a fault. And it's not your vehicle, so it just allows you to isolate the issue should you need to. But as I say, if anything does trip, just come to here. It's nice and accessible for you. Now an added feature now is you've got this worktop which you can then move, which is handy. This just simply slides, and you can of course use it as a little bit more worktop space. Finally, you've got a really good bit of storage here along the side. Up at the top, you'll notice there's some grey valves. These are what's called isolation taps. They are used to obviously isolate sections of the vehicle. They're really used for when the technicians are working on your vehicle. These should never be needed to be moved. Leave these as they are unless you are advised by a technician. And opposite your kitchen, you've got your bathroom. You've got your shower to one side. Now, we've discussed, obviously, about priming your system for that and your tap, so you're fine for that. Just one thing to bear in mind is be careful about, putting anything on here, anything heavy. These shower trays are quite brittle, so if you do put anything heavy on there in one specific area, you could potentially crack it, so just bear that in mind. Now on the other side, we've got your toilet. Now we've spoken about removing the cassette. The main thing that I was telling you about was obviously that blade on the toilet. So when the toilet is in use, all you need to do is pull this blade towards you, and that will open the cassette. So all the waste will then drop into the cassette toilet. And then once you've done that, click that blue button up at the top. That will activate your flush, and that will flush out the system and flush out the ball. Once you've done that, close the blade. You close the blade for 2 reasons. The main reason being is it stops any odours from escaping. But the second reason is it gets you into the habit of having that blade closed, so when you come to remove the cassette, it doesn't get jammed or anything like that. Now, as I mentioned, up at the top, you've got that blue button, which activates your flush. You will need your pump on for that to operate. And when the cassette is full, you'll get a red light on here to indicate that you do need to empty it. One final thing in the bathroom that we always get questions about is where are your light switches? To turn your lights on and off, just located underneath this shelf. You've also got a 230-volt socket as well in there, should you need it. Now, swinging back round, going away from the bathroom, you can see this vehicle has been fitted with a microwave, and you'll also notice you've got a Dometic fridge. Now, this fridge is a 3-way system, so there's 3 ways to power it in essence. So you've either got the option of a 12-volt leisure battery, it's going to run it off the leisure battery in the vehicle. You can then run it off the gas, as indicated by the little gas flame, or you can run it off your 230-volt electric. So when you're on site, you'll of course run it off your 230-volt electric. When you're wild camping, run it off your gas. And when you're travelling, run it off your 12-volt leisure battery. Now, a lot of people think that when they're wild camping, they can run this fridge off the 12-volt battery. That is not the case. This fridge, as you can imagine, draws quite a bit of power. So if you do that, it will just simply zap all your battery of its power. So it will only allow you to run the fridge off gas when you're wild camping. If you're travelling with the ignition on, you're absolutely fine. This vehicle, to allow to run it off your 12-volt, as this vehicle has got a built-in alternator, which will send power from the vehicle battery through to your leisure battery, allowing you to power the fridge. Now, if you was to select, one of these fuels incorrectly, a little bit like your heater, it will error and it will fault. You've got a little exclamation mark on there to indicate that it's faulted. Now, the great thing with this is you've got an auto button here. This auto button will automatically select whichever fuel you've got to the fridge. So if I show you, I'll turn this on. just like so. And I'll stick it on auto. One second, sorry, just by clicking the mode. That's me, that. Apologies for that. So yeah, just click your mode to flick it through the options. As you can see, select auto, and that has selected your 230 volt electric. Now, as mentioned, click the mode to flick through the options, and you'll also notice you've got a little temperature gauge here, so you can change the temperature of the fridge should you need to. So in the fridge, you've got your freezer up at the top, fridge below. Put cold things in the fridge to maintain them. Put frozen things in the freezer. This fridge does a very good job at maintaining the temperature things, but not the best jobs at getting it down to temperature. So if you put things in there that are already frozen and things that are already cooled in the fridge, you'll be good to go. And one final thing, please bear in mind that your microwave is not a 12 volt item, it is 230 volts, so it will only work when you're plugged into electric. If you're not, you cannot use it. Before we run on to your bedroom, you can see that you've got, in this top cupboard, a point for your aerial. So when you're watching your telly, you'll need, obviously, an aerial. Now, at the moment, it is on. There is a little switch on there to turn it on and off. Leave that on. You can see it's indicating green at the moment, which indicates a good signal. If that is red, obviously, it's not the best, and the same thing with amber. So you want it showing green ideally, and you'll need your control panel on for that to activate and turn on. Once you're at this point, all you'll need to do, if you wanted a better signal, was turn this piece of plastic here, like so, and then simply push up the pole, and then you can tighten that into position. You can then twist this pole and turn it, as I say, depending on the direction that the signal is coming from. But please ensure that this is always pulled down and tightened in place when travelling. You don't want to travel with your aerial up, so that's one thing to check. And you've got a little arm on the bottom of it if you ever did want to tilt the head of the aerial. And that's it. It's just like that, dead easy. Talking about things to check as well is please ensure that all your windows are closed when you're travelling. So to open these on all your windows, simply pull these little latches, and that will then open like so. And then to close it back in, press it all the way up and pull the window in. You can put these windows on venting should you want to allow a little bit of airflow through and a bit of ventilation, but when travelling these need to be closed. You don't want any wind getting underneath, which could potentially rip and break the plastic. On all your windows as well, you've got fly screens and blackout blinds as well. So we're in the bedroom area now. You've got two single beds in this model, along with an infill cushion here if you ever wanted to make it a big double. Underneath you've got hanging space in here, along with a great bit of storage as well on these slide out lockers. You've got some blanking plates here if you ever wanted sockets fitted. This vehicle has been fitted with a telly, which is all plumbed in and wired, ready to be used. And you can see that, again, you've got a really good bit of storage up along the back. Finally, you'll notice that you've got a roof light here. Again, just going back onto the checks, just ensure that they are closed when travelling. Again, you don't want to leave them open, because if you do get any wind underneath it, it will just pull it and rip it apart. So ensure that they are locked into place and closed when travelling. Now that concludes the handover video on this Burstner Lyseo 728. I hope you enjoyed.